So this is SETI. It's a heavy-duty sort of science Euro that's about searching for signs of life beyond the galaxy of our local solar system. SETI was actually is designed by an amateur astronomer, so a lot of the themes and artwork and vibes of the game is very much focused on like real science. A lot of the cars in the game are actual missions that happened in the past, present, sort of near future of science discovery. So in this game, you're essentially looking for signs of life, and you are science institutions that are doing research at different areas of the galaxy. You will eventually, over the course of the game, discover signs of life. But because this is not a sci-fi game, the kinds of life you discover are really more like giant asteroids that have, some mysteriousness about them, or this is to be determined because it's not finished. But for example, like signs of flora and fauna on a distant planet. So it's not really like aliens with green heads and stuff. It's more about actual kind of plausible scientific discovery. So there's 5 of these archetypes that you'll be looking for. You can shuffle them up and you get 2 per game. So you're going to get randomized discoveries that you're not going to know what they are until you finally uncover them. Each discovery comes with its own set of mechanics that layer onto the main game mechanics, so you get a lot of variability between how those combinations play out. But yeah, so in this course of the game, you're doing sort of focusing on 3 areas of research primarily that kind of tie into the rest of the game. This first one is represented by sort of like this exploded galaxy view of our solar system, and also ties into the central board. So one of the things you can do on your turn, and you have lots of different options of what you can do, but in this particular instance, you have the ability to spend resources to launch probes from Earth, and then you can also potentially spend energy to move the probes around the galaxy to travel to different planets. On future turns, you might, for example, want to then go to the planet to study and do some research. So let's say I've been over here, I'm going to Jupiter. When I arrive on Jupiter, I've got some options. I can pay some basic resources to put my probe into orbit, which allows me to gain some victory points and also some upgrades. So that's going to be useful depending on what you're trying to do on a given round. Or alternatively, I can spend a little bit more to then land on the planet instead to get more victory points. It's also one of the only ways among some certain other options to get these yellow discoveries. So this would be like the first sign of life, and I don't have all the tokens out, so I'm going to use this instead. But if I did this, I would then mark that for my player. I would get some additional bonus points, and now this is 1/3 of the way unlocked. So all players will be working towards this cumulatively, but we're also playing our own game where we're trying to get the most points by the end of 5 rounds. So this is one piece of the puzzle has a worker placement aspect to it. Also, you can land on moons that give you lots of big bonuses, but you have to unlock some more technology before you can actually do that. It's not available at the start of the game. So that's one piece of the puzzle. The next is a sort of big outer ring. So this represents a distant nebula that are too far away to reach with our probes. So the way we study those nebula is we point our telescopes or satellite arrays from Earth to focus on certain segments of the galaxy to study them. And initially, you're going to be focusing mainly on where Earth is pointing, but you can upgrade your technology that give you a little more wiggle room, so you can have a little more options, and also you can do multiple things in a particular action. But for this first purpose, let's say we're just going to study it here. So you're going to start by gathering some data, and that was going to go over to your player board, to your supercomputer for later, which I'll get to the next section. And then what I'm going to do is, to represent that you're actually studying an area, you're going to mark that you've been studying there. And this has a bit of an area control element where when this fills up, whoever has the most tokens of their color there gets the bonus ability to then choose one of the purple discoveries to find. In this case, I'll go over here to get some victory points and some prestige. Now this is 2/3 of the way to unlocking this. And we just mentioned we're getting some data from doing these discoveries. So going over here to our player board, you will accumulate data over time that can then be used as a bonus action at certain points of your turn to fill in some of these goodies to get some of the resources that you'll have there. And you don't start off with a lot in your board, but you can unlock them using different upgrades. But when this reaches the far end, when you fill this all up, you'll reset this to refresh your engine so you can do it again. But then you're going to discover this blue sign of life. I don't have my tokens for me, so let's use it this one. Then you get to mark one of the available options, but in this case I'm going to mark this one. So this has been discovered now. We're going to flip it over and you're going to discover, oh, it's the Oumuamua asteroid. So what this does in this particular instance is it adds a puzzle piece that gets added to the board. You clips in here and now you can land on the asteroid to study it further. It also adds some cards that have unique effects based on sort of that particular discovery. And there's also some other additional victory points, other things you can get as you continue your research. So this will be one of 2 potential things you can unlock in this game, and there's 5 different kind of tokens of this that have these different little options on them. Now, the other thing I can mention is upgrades. So each of these upgrades tiers tie into some of the different things I explained already. So this relates to your landing on planets and upgrading your probes so you can do better things with them. the purple color corresponds to sort of your telescope and improves your ability to do more with that as you're playing the game. And these blue ones are basically just like things you slot into your computer to get better effects. So when anyone upgrades their player board with one of these technologies, it causes the solar system to rotate. So you'll move this token, and then whichever ring it passes through will tell you which one to rotate. So in this case, I'm just rotating the first ring. But if I was doing here, you'd rotate to the top two, and the other ones you'd rotate all three. And what this does is it changes the configuration of the galaxy, it changes the location of planets, and also can move other people's probes around. And that can be really helpful, or it can be kind of a hindrance depending on what you're trying to do. So paying attention to that can be very important to the strategy of the game. And then kind of winding down, sort of the last few things, in order to do all this stuff, you need resources. So you start off with some basic stuff. You start off with some money, you start off with some energy, and you start off with some basic cards to use. Over the course of the game, you're going to be spending those things to do some of these activities, but cards in particular can be used in 4 different ways. So the first way you can use a card is certain effects will let you take a card from your hand and bank it underneath your engine here. So you can eventually expand over time and have more money each round, so you have more stuff you can do. That's one way a card can be used. Some of the other ways is the cards also represent the actual missions. So a lot of these are based on real historical missions that have happened past, present, and near future. And so you can ditch a card just to get a quick effect, go and get rid of it. Or most of the cases you're going to be using spending money to do the actual mission itself. And some of these have bonus things you can try for. Some of them give you end game scoring, and some of them just have extra effects you can do. And they're typically pretty powerful. So that's one of the main ways you're going to use it. Cards can also be used when you're upgrading your signals. You can sometimes have effects that play off of the signals that are in the offer to give you bonus options to research in other quadrants of the galaxy when you're using your telescope. That's kind of the overall of the game. Like there's some additional end game scoring options you can get as you make progress towards on your victory point track. You can claim some of these things to get bonus scoring. They're also modulars, so they flip around, you can shuffle them up. There's a little bit of variable replay. Things are a little bit not the same every single game. And yeah, that's SETI in a nutshell. It plays 1 to 4 players. It's about 40 minutes per player. And yeah, it's going to be 13 plus. It'll be available for $69.95. Later on, launching at SN in Europe. It'll have a US launch around PAX Unplugged typically. So, yeah.
In 2024 or 2025?
Yeah, this year, yeah.
This year,
so, yeah,
fantastic.
This is going straight to retail. It's not on Kickstarter. We're finishing it up and we'll be getting ready to launch it in the coming months.